అంటే సర్వర్
which is
వాడతారు కదా,
going to
చాలా సర్వర్లు ఏం
generate
వాడరు కదా, మరి ఇందాక డబ్ల్యూకి లాట్ అన్నారు.
a load of
Gmail
users.
కాదు.
These are not actual users.
అది
These
జీమెయిల్
are
అన్నది
known
ఒకటే
as
వెబ్సైట్
the
కదా.
virtual
వెబ్సైట్
users
ఒకటే,
that are
కానీ సర్వర్స్ ఎన్ని
generated
ఉంటాయి
by the.
గూగుల్ కంపెనీలో ఎన్ని సర్వర్స్ ఉన్నాయి.
పెద్దదో కాబట్టి చాలా
Does it make sense?
అందుకు లాట్.
For you to do performance testing, you cannot get to 1,000 users at the same time to do the testing. So that's why you're going to go ahead and you're going to do it using different tools. Does it make sense? If you have any doubts, feel free to ask, please, everybody.
ఇదేందో ఇది అర్థం కాదు.
ఏం క్వశ్చన్ అడగమంట.
వైట్ విర్చువల్ యూజర్స్ ఏంటి?
What is a virtual user? Virtual user, Savita, there is something known as a virtual user. Virtual user is not an actual user. See, imaginary. Yes, correct, Anandita. So what happens is, again, like if I have to do testing, will I actually collect 1,000 users? Will I make them sit on a system, and then will I tell all the 1,000 users to start using www.gmail.com? No. So there has to be some way where I can do the testing. So this tool helps me generate these users. So that is your virtual
tool అండి.
users.
tool, which tool is helpful?
I don't know. Loader.
Sure?
Yeah.
When user is generated, let's say 1,000, would the load runner actually have all 1,000 users logged in at the same time? Nikhil, it will give you the effect. It will give you the effect that yes, 1,000 users are logging in at the same time, but it's not that actually, it's not actual users. It is that it is virtually that is generated there. The tool has the ability to generate virtual users, but it's not that they are actual users. Yes, but it will be something equivalent to how will the system behave if 1,000 users are logged in at the same time. Yes. Does that answer your question, Nikhil? So the tool will generate those users. Those users are not actually present, but yes, they are imaginary users, and they will use all the resources which 1,000 users will use while logging on to www.gmail.com. It will give you that effect so you can test it. The tool will be linked to the same server of 100 people, wherein in reality the users are spread to the different server locations. Saraswati, all this is total detail of testing. So when you do performance testing, when you do load testing and all these things, there are something known as load balancers. Now what are these load balancers? That here you have server 1, here you have server 2, here you have server 3, here you have client 1, here you have client 2, here you have client 3. Now in between there are some load balancers. They are nothing but again some kind of machine. They might be there, they might not be there. So the load balancers, all the requests, like if the request is going to one server, load balancer will balance it so that some requests go to server 1, some requests go to server 2, some requests go to server 3, so that all the servers are not loaded. So let me go ahead and show you one. Let me just show you one diagram to explain this. See, this is how it works. how it works. Can you see? This is
Charge of this.
your quality center tool, the architecture of a quality center tool. It is a 3-tier architecture, as you can see here. There is a client. Now, quality center is a tool. So this is a client here. So this is the client here.
No.
So this is the client here. Then there is a load balancer here so that it is routed. The request is routed to different application servers and not to one. And then you have something known as the database. So now this load balancer might be there, it might not be there. So that is like going into a lot of detail. Now is it clear?
Charge of all that.
And if one of the server also goes ahead and
Water would
shut it down, let's say if one of the servers stop working, then in that case, if a server stops working, let's say the server went and stopped working, so this load balancer will go ahead and move all the requests to server 2 and server 3. Right? So where were we? We were on the production and we were on the pre-production environment. So Dayan, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correct. Please forgive me if I'm not. So here, this is what you mean by the that pre-production is a replica of the production environment. So this is what we mean and this is what we understand. So once you have done the testing on the pre-production environment, that means you have tested it on 2 to 3 ATMs, then you are going to move ahead to the production environment. That is, you are going to go ahead and move on, you are going to install the software on all the 1,000 machines. Any doubts till now?
Any doubts? No. You want it?
crunchy Baba.
Jignesha, I think there is some confusion here. It is like a trial period in few of the machines is pre-production. No, dear. It is not a trial period. Trial period is totally something very, very different. Please don't confuse. Pre-production is the different environments in which we do the testing before we release it to the production environment. So, Jignesha, whenever you're going to do the testing, first the testing is going to be done in the development environment. Then the testing is going to be done in our environment, that is the testing environment. Then the testing will be done in the pre-production environment, and then the testing will be done in the production environment. So
Developer
this
test
has got
testing
nothing
environment
to do with the trial period.
testing is done by developer environment testing develop
If a tool is giving you a trial period, you are using it. You are not testing it. It is using it. If they wanted you to test it, then why would be it in the trial period? It will come only in the trial period if the testing is over.
వాళ్ళు మైనర్ టెస్టింగ్ అది చేస్తారు అని చెప్పి
After the software is ready to deploy, rather than putting it like this, I will say after the testing is done in the testing environment, I am going to do the pre-production testing, and after the pre-production testing, it is ready to be deployed. Any more doubts, guys? Jignisha, feel free to ask questions so that you don't stay with any doubts. So any of the things, any doubts you have, just feel free to answer. Savita, what about trial period? Trial period, please explain. Testing environment and pre-production is different phases, right? Testing environment is an environment. Testing, when you are doing in the testing environment and pre-production environment is testing in different environments. 3. You are doing testing in different environments. Development environment is an environment. Testing environment is an environment. Pre-production is an environment. In the pre-production environment, the ATMs used, they will also have live ATM machines, right? Just that we need to install the software to limited number of machines. Yes, Nikhil. For every build, it's the same process from development to production. Yes, every build it is the same. That you will do development, you will do testing, Okay, now one more thing. Not always there will be a pre-production. It depends from client to client. Does a client want to do a pre-production or a UAT? Pre-production and UAT is same. User
Most times,
acceptance
yes.
testing. It is known as user acceptance testing. So I will talk about it a little more. But user acceptance testing and pre-production testing is
first
the same.
pilot
Now,
system
if it happens or does not happen in the project, it really
pilot
depends
are
from
real
client to
users.
client. If a client wants it, they will do it. If they don't want it, they will not.
About 20 or 30 people ఉంటారు. Limited.
If server 1 is not working, then the load balancer will send the request to the server 2 and server 3. Is that correct? Yes, it is absolutely
so
correct.
pre-production అంటే అదే testing pilot environment.
There is the same process. Yes, it is the same process. Do servers have any stored speed limit? See, servers, obviously, server is a machine, so there will be some or the other restriction for that machine. So depending on how fast you want it or how the data should be analyzed, how it works, you can go ahead and put another server. So that less requests will come to one server and it will go ahead and do it more quickly. Trial period, please explain. Okay, see, the trial period, only thing she was getting confused was, she was just getting confused that is the trial period, is that also pre-production or whatever she thought. But what I answered to her was, I told her that there is something known as a trial period. So if you have a software for a trial period, then that is not testing the software. You are using the software. So she was just getting a little confused here. Savita, when I'm saying the trial period, I am using the software. I'm not testing it. So there are different softwares that are available to you. So there are different softwares like, you have a tool called SOAP UI Pro. Now when you want to install that tool, what do you need to do? You install it and you get a 15 days trial period for that tool. So does that mean you are testing it for 15 days? No. They are giving you access to that tool to use for 15 days, and then if you like it, they want you to go ahead and buy the license.
Yeah, but that's not pre-production.
If you think it is useful for your project. So this is what is trial.
So trial అంటే అలా అనుకోకండి అంటున్నారు.
Let's assume each build will be given for
ఇది ఇన్సైడ్
testing
ట్రయల్ పీరియడ్ అండి
in
ఇది ఆమె చెప్పేది
almost every day on in 3 days. In whichever case, do
I'm
they
also trial
release
period.
every
Narrowed
build
out
to
on
the
trial
production
period.
environment? See, that is what I'm trying to tell you.
దానికి చెప్తున్నాను ఆన్సర్. ట్రయల్ పీరియడ్ అంటే ఇది కాబట్టి ట్రయల్ పీరియడ్ అని మాకండి అంటున్నాను.
Okay, you are talking about the production environment. You are going to go ahead and see, this is where you are.
అదేవాడు అన్నాడు.
If you talk about agile, after every sprint, in case of an agile, after every sprint, we are releasing the partial product to the client. The client will see it, and if there are any changes, then they will tell us the change, and we will go ahead and implement it in the upcoming sprints. You are releasing it to the client. Yes. Any more questions, guys, before I move on?
No.
Any more questions before I move on to the next topic of the day?
Next topic.
Okay. Great, Saraswati.
Tell us the change.
This topic is that we were discussing all the different types of environments, Saraswati. So there is a development environment, there is a tester environment, there is a pre-production environment, and then there is a production environment. These are all the environments. So first you do test it in the developer environment, then you do it in the tester environment, then you do it in the production environment, pre-production, and then you test it in the production environment. So these are the different environments that are there. Okay, great, Avani. Now I want to go ahead and explain the pre-production thing once more. I just want to talk about, maybe UAT will talk about it later. I'll take an example and talk about UAT. Now we are going to the next topic. So right now we just covered all the different kinds of terminologies. So before I move to the next topic, for those who joined in late or otherwise also, I'm going to do a quick recap of what we've done till now. So first we spoke about what basically a functionality is. So what is a functionality? Let's just do a quick recap before I go into the next topic. So what is a functionality? What is a functionality? Yes, absolutely correct. It is a feature that can do a certain task. Feature that can do a certain task. So that is known as your functionality. Now you can, on a particular thing, you can have a login functionality, you can have a register functionality, you can have shopping functionality. So all this is basically your different kinds of functionality. Then we spoke about the three-tier architecture. So in three-tier architecture, there is a client, the client will send a request to the server. The server will process the request and it will access the database for any information that is required, and then it will, so here it will access the database, the server, and then the server will send back a response to the client. So that was my three-tier architecture that I discussed. Then I discussed what exactly is an environment. What exactly is an environment? This was the third thing that I discussed, that environment is nothing but here we are talking about the computer environment. Here I'm talking about the computer environment. That is nothing but the hardware and the software. Hardware configuration. Hardware software configuration of the computer. Server process the request. A server will process the request and it will give response to the client. The client is asking him to do something. The server will do that and then it will give the response back to the client Niaz. So here you have your operating system, you have your browser, you have your testing tools, you have your RAM, you have your ROM, you have your hardware accessories connected to the system. All that is known as your computer environment. What are the different types of environment? There is the development environment, there is the testing environment, there is a pre-production environment, and there is the production environment. Generally, pre-production environment is a replica of a production environment. The pre-production is also known as your user acceptance testing. So the client might want a user acceptance testing, might not want a user acceptance testing. That depends on the different project. It depends on project to project. Then we spoke about an important topic called build. Now, what exactly is the build? It is basically an installation of file which is packaged in a single file called the .exe or the executable. So this file is going to be used. This is going to be used for the installation of the software. So this is going to be used for the installation of the software. Till now, any doubts? Aditi, Avni, Dhyan, Jignesha replied. Jyoti, Niyaz, Nikhil.
You mean the fire?
Richa.
డౌట్స్ ఏమైనా ఉన్నాయో అడుగుతుందా నోట్స్ నో అని చెప్పండి మీ పేరు చెప్పింది
Okay. Savita, Shruti, Rajanya, Shri typed Syed, Victor.
దివ్వని ఉందండి ఇక్కడ దివ్వని
I don't know. Okay, so if there are no doubts, let's go ahead to the next topic.
ఏందో చెప్పుకుంటూ పోతుంది మర్చిపోయినా 1.5
అడగండి
So what kind of interview questions if you are going to get from this? They can ask you what are the different kinds of environment, what is a build. They can ask you what What is the three-tier architecture? They will not go in detail at all about the three-tier architecture because as a developer you need to know more details, but as a tester you don't need to know so many details. So you just need to know these terms because when you're working in a company, they'll say, hey, the build is deployed. It's a three-tier architecture. This is the database. One more thing for the three-tier architecture that I'd like to tell you here is.
Mama, I want to put my shoe quiet.
One more thing for the three-tier architecture that I like to tell you is that when we learn testing, so when we are going to learn testing, we are going to learn testing on the client also, on the server also, on the database also. So what do I mean when I'm going to learn the testing on the client side? So obviously, if you have www .gmail.com. If you have www.gmail.com, so obviously here the client is going to go ahead. When you do the client side testing, what are you testing here? That how should the user interface look? That if this is the username, this is the password, and if this is the login button, then what will happen if I click on the login button? Am I able to log in? I am not able to log in. I am getting an error message or not? Does the screen look fine? So all this testing you are going to do here, which we are going to learn. Then when you come to the server, so generally on the server, the operating system that you have is Unix, excuse me. We are going to talk about this also. That what kind of testing when we can do if there is a Unix server installed. Then on the database where the data is stored, we are going to use something known as structured query language. So what is the structured query language? How can you access what is in the database? So let me tell you this one more thing which is very important for you to understand is that when you enter or when you register a user, what is the first step? That you have a graphical user interface where you enter all the values, from where you enter the values, that is from the website, from the browser, from the screen, from the graphical user interface. You fill in all the fields for the registration and then you say submit or you say create the user. So where is all this value getting stored in? Database. It is getting stored in the database. Server is just there to do the processing. It will do the processing, but where is it getting stored? It is getting stored in the database. Now, when it is getting stored in the database, how do you check that whatever you did here, was it updated correctly in the database or not? You are going to do it using SQL. Using SQL, you will test the database, and this is known as database testing, or it is known as end testing. Yes, absolutely correct, Saraswati Victor. You are going to query it. Now this is known as your database testing, or this is known as your backend testing.
Come on.
Water.
I'll give you this.
Clear?
Yes.
Will you be teaching us database testing? Yes. That's what I'm saying. We will be doing all types of testing here. So when I say that we will be doing client, we will be doing testing here also. When I say server, we will be learning Unix also. And when I say SQL, we will be learning SQL also.
క్వశ్చన్స్ కూడా ఇవ్వాలి, ఎక్కువ అడిగారు కదా అనుకో. ఇంకొక అరగంట పెంచు.
Right. So now if you have any questions, you ask me, because it's just 15 minutes and I don't want to start a new topic. So today it's a 2-hour class. We will finish at 11.
Oh, that's okay.
And then from tomorrow there is no class, and from next week onwards it will be 12 to 3.
ఇంకేమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉంటే
సర్వర్ ఆపరేటింగ్ సిస్టమ్ యూనిక్స్ మధ్యలో
Saturday and Sunday, yes. Tomorrow there
ఆపరేటింగ్
is no
సిస్టమ్
class.
యూనిక్స్ డిఫరెంట్ ఆపరేటింగ్ సిస్టమ్స్ ఉన్నాయి. విండోస్, యూనిక్స్, లీనక్స్ అట్లా. లీనక్స్ ఇస్ నథింగ్ బట్ యూనిక్స్ అనుకో.
When do you want the shorter session, Saraswati? I mean, from next week onwards, it's going to be 12 to 3.
That's how classes do.
No, it's just for next week onwards. It is going to be 12. Let's just get this clear that next week onwards it is going to be 12 to 3. So that is Saturday and Sunday. Just because it was a long weekend, that's why this change for this week. But otherwise, this is how it works from next week. We've just started NIAS. We've done waterfall and agile methodology. And are you there for the 11 o'clock session, NIAS, 11 to 12? Are you a part of that session?
ఇంకో సెషన్ ఉంది కదా వంటతో.
Are you?
No, my ABCs.
మనకు కాదు, ఆమె వేరే వాళ్ళు చెప్తారు.
Yes. If there is any questions you want to ask me, if there are any questions you want to ask me, you can go ahead. I will not be starting any I won't be starting any new topic right now, so I'll be taking questions now. If you want to leave, Savita, you can if you've understood everything. Aditi, can you repeat database testing? Yes, Aditi, I will repeat it. Avani, next 2 weeks.
15 minutes 11
I won't be able to connect. Okay, Avani. So maybe, Avani, when I'm doing a next class, you can be a part of it. How do we get the videos? Guys, Mike has already mailed across the videos to everybody. Victor, you did not get the videos? Please drop in an email to Mike if you haven't got the videos.
నీకు పాస్వర్డ్ ఏమో పనిచేయలో
Okay, Savita. The schedule for the next week and the week after that remains the same, Saturday, Sunday, 12 to 3. It does not change. Okay, so coming back to your question, Aditi, what do we mean by? Schedule, lesson plan, what I plan to do, I'm going to talk about all the different types of testing. You can go ahead and check in the videos. The videos are already available. So we are going to talk about the different types of testing. So what are the different types of testing that I'm going to talk about? I'm going to talk about unit testing. I'm going to talk about integration testing. I'm going to talk about system testing. I'm going to talk about black box testing. I'm going to talk about white box testing.
వచ్చాను కదా క్లిక్ చేసిన
I'm going. Yeah, Shruti, you can leave. If you do not have any doubts, Dignesha, if you do not have any doubts, Aditi, stay with me. I'll be explaining to you. Thank you guys for being a part of the class and have a wonderful long weekend. And please take care and enjoy this holiday that you have got. The white box and unit integration system, black box, white box. We'll talk about static testing. We'll talk about dynamic testing. We'll talk about browser compatibility testing. We will talk about Victor, after we do these all types of testing, we will start with test cases also. We will be doing that also, Victor, next week.
Mama, come on.
Yeah,
Yay!
రిపీటింగ్ ఉన్నది రికార్డింగ్ కోసం అని పెట్టి.
So basically, I'm going to be talking about different types of testing. So there is UAT, user acceptance testing. There is exploratory testing. There is scripted testing. So I'm going to be talking about all these things. Saraswati. Okay, now coming to Aditi. Are you there, Aditi? Saraswati, do one thing, just drop me an email and I'll reply to your email. Just drop me an email. You have my email ID? Yeah, I get it. You have my email ID, Saraswati? Okay. This is my email ID. And write an email to Mike also. Mike.h2kinfosys@gmail.com. Saraswati, just drop in an email. Next week, could you tell us about yourself as a tester? What exactly is that, Victor? What do you want to know about yourself as a tester? Explain it in detail and I'll definitely let you know in the next class. Whatever you want, just let me know what exactly the question is and then I will go ahead and do it. I mean your education background, mine. Okay, my education, thank you. My education background is that I've done my BTech Computer Science. I've worked in the IT field for almost 12 years. I've worked with different companies and worked in different domains. So I've worked with a Belgium-based company called Heliatlas. I've worked with a UK-based Barclaycard UK, and I've worked with Arctic Information Systems. I worked with a company called Zansa. I worked with a company called DataNet Information. So basically, it's like, 12 years I have worked in the IT industry, and I started my career as a developer. So I started first 3 years I was developing, and after that, I actually was involved in a little bit of testing also, and I found that really interesting, and then I just shifted, and then there is no looking back, Victor. Because I think testing is any day more, like I enjoy it more. Okay, great, Victor. Okay, now these testing come under functional or non-functional. So Aditi, when I say here that I will be talking these things, so here itself I'll be talking about functional and non-functional. So if you want to ask about functional and non-functional, functional testing is basically when you are testing what the system can do. That is your functional. Non-functional is more like, when you are testing the performance. So that is more of a non-functional here. So we will talk about this functional and non-functional in detail, but let me come to your question about database testing. So let me explain what database testing is to you once more, and if you have any doubts, then you go ahead and ask me. See, what I was trying to explain here is the database testing I was saying is that whatever we do on the front end, so what do you mean by whatever I do on the front end? What I mean to say is that I enter a username, I enter a password, and then if I click on login button. So if I'm doing this in the front end, or if in the front end I am doing I'm entering or I'm creating a new user, I'm registering a new user. So if I register a new user, what am I going to do? I'm going to enter so many fields and then I'm going to click on the submit button. So whatever I'm doing on the front end is getting stored in the back end also. So whatever I'm doing here, these values are going in the back end also. So when I say database testing, that means when I created a username, I entered some name, I entered some address, I entered some phone number, I entered some email, and when I clicked on the submit button, did this go as I entered into the database or not? So when I do backend testing or when I do database testing, I am checking that whatever I entered in the front end, did it go into the database correctly or not? Did it get stored in the database correctly or not? So how can I do database testing? First, I have to know that in which table the data is going to get stored. Then I have to use SQL query. So I have to use something known as SQL query. I'm going to connect to the database. I'm going to write the SQL query, which is going to get me the data which I entered here. So like let's say Aditi created a user. So Aditi entered her name, Aditi entered her email, phone number, everything, and click on the submit button. Now in the backend, I know the name of the table is register where the values are getting stored. So now Aditi is going to write an SQL query. She is going to say select star, that means select all the data from the register table where the user name is Aditi. So it should show me all the values for Aditi. It should show me all the records for Aditi, what she entered in the front end. That is known as backend testing Aditi. Now is it clear, Aditi? Database testing and backend testing is same, Aditi. It is just another name for database testing. So database testing can also be known as backend testing. Anandita, database testing is how the data is getting stored in a database, and you're checking if it is stored in the right format and am I able to retrieve the data from the database. So basically, how is the data getting stored in the database is what I'm doing in database testing. Right, guys?
Can I sit here?
Just don't talk. Stay quiet.
So guys, I'm going to log out of the webinar. How it is stored and processed. Yes, correct, Saraswati, how it is stored and processed. Okay, guys, have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your long weekend. What class do we have from 11 to 12? Nayaz, it is basically for students who missed the previous session. So it is for them. So have you got the link for that class, Nayaz? Okay, would you like to be a part of it? No, it is not for everybody. It is only for the people who have just missed the previous session, that's all.